Hey all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. In this episode, we're going to be rehousing a couple Phormictopus species, Phormictopus auratus and Phormictopus species Green Femur or South Hispaniola. I've had these guys for quite a while, and now that they're big, beautiful females, I want to get them out into something a little more attractive so that I can show them off. Anyone who has watched my YouTube channel, listened to my podcast, or read my articles on my website knows how much I love Phormictopus. So going ahead, I'm trying to get some of these ones I've collected over the years into enclosures that will allow people to really appreciate them because they are gorgeous spiders. And with this rehousing, I have a couple patrons I'd like to thank, Philippe Westman and Joe Gale. Thank you so much, guys. Again, I don't like to draw a lot of attention to the Patreon page, but these guys have been with me for quite a while and they've made a lot of this possible. I've got the new tarantula room. I've been moving things into a lot of bigger, more beautiful premium enclosures so I can show off my spiders more. And these folks have really made that possible. So enough of me talking. Let's get into the actual video. All right, we're going to rehouse a couple Phormictopus species. To kick this one off, we are going to do my Phormictopus auratus or Cuban gold. I picked these guys up in 2016. I got two slings. One was a little bit bigger than the other. And just a heads up that if you pick up any of the supposed Cuban species of Phormictopus, the slings, I believe the majority of the slings or all the slings are brown in coloration, not blue like the ones from the island of Hispaniola, the ones from Haiti or Dominican Republic, so that's something to note. And these guys were little brown slings. They were also some of the most shy Phormictopus I have kept. I'm used to the ones like the Phormictopus cancerides that even as little slings are stone cold killers. They'll go out as slings and take down prey just about the same size as they are. Incredible hunters. These guys were a little more laid back, secretive. They did a lot of burrowing and they stayed burrowed a lot later than some of the other Phormictopus species. So a heads up on that one. I know I did a video on these guys a while back and I said all this stuff. Somebody bought one and said he hated it because it's burrowed and he was going to dig it up, and it just frustrated me so much because, like I told you, it'll outgrow it eventually. So they will be, you know, they will live, at least mine did. I talked to other people that didn't have this issue, but mine were a little more fossorial as they were slings, but they outgrew that behavior. And as you can see now, she just sits right out in the open, fully exposed, and which is great because she is absolutely stunning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get her out of this enclosure, which is one of the sterilite shoe boxes, into one of the primal cages we got over here. I ended up buying, I think, 6 or 8 of these to put some of my bigger ones in to display them, and I've been dying to put an auratus in here because I love looking at them. And then what we've got is the basic setup: Biodude substrate, leaf litter, got some sphagnum moss, got a piece of cork bark there for a hide where I hollowed out a little space underneath it. I did start with the substrate partially moistened. Just a heads up with the Phormictopus species, I do keep the slings and even the juveniles a little bit moist, but I have found that once they put on some size, these guys are incredibly hardy, and I know plenty of people that can keep them dry with just a water dish. So I always like to err on the side of caution, give them some moisture early on because they are species from a tropical region, but I have seen that as they grow up, they seem to have no preference for it. And one of the ways you can figure that out is when you put substrate into an enclosure, moisten down a corner or half the substrate, and watch to see if the spider gravitates toward that area. If it gravitates toward that area, it usually means that it prefers a little bit of moisture. If it doesn't, it could care less. So here we go. We're going to hopefully just cap this one. I was telling Billy the other day I got ambitious and I did 3 Phormictopus species and Lasiodora species, I think. And it literally took me, I don't know, 10 minutes for all of them. It was just popping them up. A couple of them were kind of fighting me a bit, but so what we're going to try to do is just drop this right over top of her, just like that. Slide this right underneath her. No. Whoa.
A little fresh.
Ooh, so cute. And just to point out, that right there is the tarantula quote-unquote stress pose. That's where they curl their knees up over their faces. It's kind of like they're protecting themselves, covering themselves up. So right now, she's kind of doesn't know what's going on. She's a little, you know, I hate to say it, frightened. We'll use a human term. So what we're going to do now is slide this out of the way. I'm going to try not to step on it. We can stick that right on top. Sometimes I cut these out. Sometimes I leave them in there because it's interesting to watch us try to do it.
Yeah.
So what we did there is I just had to adjust the other camera, so hopefully it's got a clear shot of this because this enclosure is a little bit higher. What we're going to do is drop her right in here. Open this up a little bit. I kind of want to get some more footage over, but I think you got some good footage to start, so it's not a big deal. And we're going to try to get her out that way. and that's about as well behaved as you can get. The infamous Phormictopus species. As you can see, they're not all super nasty. They get I mean, to be clear, I've had a lot of good luck with mine. I think we counted, I have 10 species slash unidentified species, like the purples, the Dominican violets. We have one we're going to do in a minute. I think 10 or 12, somewhere around there. I probably should have counted before I said this. I've had really good luck with the temperaments on all of them. They're really normally fairly laid back. I will get some threat postures from them at times, and although they can be impressive, they're not ones where they're slapping the ground or exposing their fangs. It's more of just get away from me. Never had them kick any hairs. That's been a nice plus too, but they're just such gorgeous spiders. And you can see this one, that gold slash bronze is just really stunning. Hopefully it's coming out on the camera. One of my favorites, just there's something about a gold spider, and after they molt, they are particularly brilliant. So there we go, P. auratus. Now we're going to switch up and we're going to do, what are we going to do? I think the green femur, or the one sold as Phormictopus species South Hispaniola. I haven't said that in so long, I forgot it for a minute. So we're going to switch this out. When we come back, we'll be doing Phormictopus species South Hispaniola. And we're back. Next one we're going to be doing is Phormictopus species Green Femur or South Hispaniola. I bought these guys several years ago, back in 2015, labeled as South Hispaniola. And once they matured and were, around 6 inches or so, 5.5, 6 inches, they had the green femurs that are recognized as being one of the 3 Phormictopus green species. You have green femur, and then what is it? Gold carapax is the other one, I believe. Green carapax, gold carapax, something like that. There's 3 different ones. I will say I have one of these that is, I probably should show instead of just a milky sterilite. You can open up. This one's in need of a molt, but you can see some of the greenish coloration, I think. I will say that I have one that is molted. It's the oldest of the bunch, and she just molted again, and the green coloration is all over her now. There's more green in her carapace. There's a little more green on her legs, but she did spend a good 4 years with just the green. She had like the red hairs on the abdomen and then the green hairs only on the femurs, and it was really brilliant after they molt. But you can see here, this one's in need of a molt, and after they put on, after some time goes by, they dull out a little bit. The greens start to turn into more of a brown, but then they molt again and the green comes back, and it's glorious. You can see the green. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, good. Okay. Because they're like any spider. When you see spiders with brilliant colors, sometimes it's people jacking up the brightness on them, or jacking up just the levels on it to make them pop. Or in other cases, you have a spider that if it's super brilliant, it probably just molted. So these guys are stunning. They're big. I have another one now that's about 7.5 inches that will have to be rehoused as well. I want to put this one in a new enclosure though, because this one looks like it's going to molt soon, and I kind of want to get into something that I can show it off after she molts. So we'll go ahead and cup her. I think she's big. Did she kick?
Maybe.
That is a big, beefy girl. I just love Phormictopus. And as you can see, again, there's that. I don't know if it's showing up, the stress post pulling the knees up over the face. That is not defensive at all. That is, I don't know what's going on. Please leave me alone. So now we're going to switch up. Hold that there. And now I will be filling the water dish afterwards. I always have somebody comment, you didn't fill the water dish. We will be filling the water dish. Yes, she's scrunched up there. I want to say this is what? Probably about maybe 6.5 inches or so, and she's not even near full extension. She's probably 7.5 inches now, and hopefully fatten her up a little bit, get a molt out of her, and we'll see some lovely colors. So now this one I got a funny feeling is going to be a little more tricky to get out. Or not. There we go. Yeah, just gorgeous, beefy spiders. I mean, I'm obviously singing the praises of Phormictopus species for years, and now what I'm seeing is they're finally getting the popularity that I think they deserve, where not only more people picking them up, but you're seeing a lot more variants of them out there, which means I think people are trying to find more Phormictopus to get into the hobby because people like them so much. So a word about the temperament. These, I think I have 4 or 5 ones that I bought as Phormictopus species South Hispaniola or Green Femurs, and they are all incredibly and have been incredibly laid back. Now, I know people are going to come up and say mine are crazy. I get it. I'm just saying mine have been probably some of the calmest spiders I keep. They reminded me a lot of the Queen, my G. porteri or rosehair tarantula that I had for years. It would just sit there. They have a reputation for being pet rocks because they sit there and don't move. These guys will just sit there forever and don't move, but they have an incredible hunting instinct. If I drop 3, 4, 5 crickets in there, this thing would be scrambling all around, snatching up all the crickets. They eat great. They grow quickly. The majority of the Phormictopus species I keep or have kept have gone from slings to 4.5 inches, even 5 inches in just over a year's time with no problems whatsoever. They do slow down a bit in the growth rate once they hit around the 4.5, 5 inch mark. The molts start coming less frequently. They spend more time in pre-molt, so just a heads up there. But it doesn't matter. If you get a sling that's 3/4 of an inch and by the end of the year it looks like an adult, that's a pretty good deal. So really fast growing spiders. But this is pretty much what I get on. You can see she's just calmly sitting there. There's no stress pose. She's not running. There's no threat posture. And this is pretty much how all of my green femurs have been. So obviously people that temperament can vary from specimen to specimen. So people that keep these, feel free to chime in with your experiences. I'm sure there are other people out there that have ones that are more high strung. I totally get it. I believe it. So people need to hear it, but mine have just been fantastic. So as far as what to keep them in, for slings, they're big. They start off big and they grow fairly quickly. So what you want to do is start them in something at least 16 ounces or so. I have never, to my recollection, I have never started a Phormictopus sling in a dram vial. They outgrow them way too quickly. So something around 16 ounces or so, maybe even a little bit bigger, give them some room. I give them enough moist substrate to dig in. I give them a little cork bark hide if there's enough space, a little moist substrate to dig in. I keep the substrate moist when they're slings. If you can fit a water dish in there, definitely fit a water dish in there. Expect good growth rate. As far as feeding, I fed mine twice a week. You can give them a bigger meal once a week. You can give them a bigger meal once a month. Pick a feeding schedule that works for you, but they are great eaters, so I think people end up stuffing them because they are fun to watch hunt. Now for juveniles, they're going to put on size very quickly, and there's one molt in particular where they go from about 2.5 inches to almost 4 inches. It's a huge jump. They go from looking like little blue slings to almost adults. So you want to make sure you give them some room as juveniles. So I usually put them in something around, at least a gallon or 2 gallons, probably better, or I believe that would be around 8 liters or so. Give them some space as juveniles. They will use the space. Again, give them some substrate to dig in. Keep it, I like to keep it moist. A water dish, but know that the bigger they get, they don't seem to require it. And then as adults, again, always have a water dish. I keep mine mostly, what I'll do is I'll moisten all this down, and this has all been moistened down before I put it in there. The low levels are moist now. I'll let it dry out a little bit, and then I'll moisten it down again. They seem to appreciate that. But I haven't seen one hugging any moist spots or anything, so it's not a species that I find that is quote-unquote moisture dependent. Temperatures for these guys are always in the 70s. Back when I got this one, I think the tarantula room actually dipped down into the 60s in the wintertime for a little while. Now it's low 70s in the wintertime, upper 70s to 80s in the warmer summer months. So anyway, if you find these guys out there, I definitely encourage you to grab them up. It seems like they're offered more often than they were in the past. They can be a little bit pricey because I think there's a bigger demand for them now. Back in the day, the Phormictopus guys would come out and a lot of people, they'd be there for a while. Now I think people snatch them up pretty quickly, but I definitely encourage you, if you love Phormictopus, to check these guys out. So that will do it for these guys. We have Phormictopus species South Hispaniola, or the Green Femur, and then we had the P. auratus earlier. Very well behaved. I'm glad they continued showing that Phormictopus aren't all big, nasty, ornery spiders. All right, so as always, that went pretty well. Again, with Phormictopus species, I know they have a reputation out there for being quite ornery and defensive and scary spiders, and I'm sure a lot of folks will chime in with stories about theirs. I've just been very fortunate with the 11 species or color variations that I keep that have rather calm spiders, some of which are big, beautiful spiders that love nothing more than to just sit calmly out in the open so that I can admire them. Sure, sometimes I get a threat pose, and I get those ones sometimes where they fall back on themselves. It looks very impressive, but the fangs aren't bared, they're not slapping to the ground, and the majority of time when it happens, it's when I startle one by dropping a cricket in that proceeds to bounce off the spider, and then the spider will throw up threat posture. But all in all, they've been really good. I've rehoused, I think 10 different ones in the past 3 weeks and had 0 issues with them. So are they beginner species? That's a tricky one. I would be inclined to say for most people they would not. However, if the LPs can be a good beginner species, a bigger spider with, you know, nasty hairs and they will kick, then I would say that these guys under certain circumstances might be okay for somebody that knows what they're getting in for. But overall, just heads up, know what you're getting into if you're new to the hobby and looking at Phormictopus species. So that will do it for this one. As always, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up there. If you'd like to check out some more videos, you can find them in here. If you comment and take the time to comment, no, I'll answer. It may take me a couple days, but if you take the time to put a comment on my videos, I'm going to take the time to respond to you. That'll do it for this one, guys. As always, stay safe, and we'll catch you all next time.